Hey everyone, this one's going to be a little different. Kind of a more casual, not necessarily like business focused topic today, but still something that I think is important to talk about. Um, so I'll start by saying that one of my favorite podcasts is called Calm It Down by Chad Lawson. He does short, like weekly podcasts, usually less than 15 minutes long, on a variety of topics. And they all have the goal of just like making you feel better about where you are and who you are in your life. His voice is soothing, he makes wonderful points, and I thoroughly enjoy listening to him each week. He also does very short, like morning affirmation episodes that are usually less than 3 minutes. And they're nice, but his standard weekly episodes are where I get the most value. This isn't an ad for his podcast, by the way. I just really love listening to Calm It Down. And one of his episodes serves as like the basis for what I'm talking about today. Um, so I wanted to mention it. But his March 31st, 2026 episode is called The Permission to Be Average. And it deals with the idea that we don't have to be the best or even great at everything we do. We don't have to constantly be turning hobbies into side hustles, nor do we have to be living the most exciting life. Being average, normal, even boring can be more than enough. And so he asks the question, when did we start believing anything less than extraordinary is failure? And I've been thinking about that a lot lately because he's right. At some point, we stopped letting things just be what they are. Um, the pressure to excel, optimize, monetize, and like outperform everyone and everything isn't just a like personal feeling anymore. It's become woven into the fabric of how we live, and it can be exhausting. Like a kid who plays soccer is now a kid who like needs to be on a travel team by the time he's 8 years old. Someone who likes painting is now someone people push to create an Etsy shop and like an Instagram aesthetic. And a professional who does their job well has become someone who needs a personal brand and a side hustle. So, and I realize the irony as I'm talking about this on YouTube, but like this is my job. So like, yeah, when did average become a dirty word? Why can't we just be or let others just be? Why does it always have to be a push for more? So, what I want to talk about today is like this how this culture has changed our lives and not always in good ways. Um, and so, before I get into this next section, which is basically about like when did Saturday morning youth leagues become a part time job? I'm going to start by saying that I am not a parent. I don't directly engage with youth sports organizations. I do have friends and family members who are involved in youth sports, whether as a parent and or a coach. So my opinions are formed based upon my observations attending games, conversations with the people I know who are involved in it, and my own experience with youth sports as a child. Like when I was growing up, youth sports were huge. They still are, but like in a sign up for your local little league, play for your school's team, or sign up for your local rec league kind of way. There were very few truly competitive leagues at that time. And the kids who played in those leagues and on those travel teams were truly talented players. The rest of the kids, the average ones, God forbid, mainly played on school teams or in leagues where you just had to sign up and show up. kids of all skill levels could play any sport they wanted. It didn't matter whether they were barely grasping the rules of the game or if they were a future all-star. There was a team for them somewhere. And now, like, I'm sure this isn't the case everywhere. And so I'm making that caveat before people come after me. I know you're all passionate about youth sports, but I am consistently shocked and disappointed by how competitive the world of youth sports has become. Kids start trying out for teams before kindergarten. And if you want to have a shot at making a team, because just having a team to sign up for without needing to try out is so rare now, you can't just play baseball in the summer or hockey in the winter. You go to skills camps in the off season. You play winter ball or summer hockey. It never ends. And if you're average at these sports, there aren't many spots for you anymore. You have to be devoted. Otherwise, good luck to you. Like, what happened to playing for fun? Why is it so much less acceptable for children to just have a good time and not try to be the best at a game where the vast majority of them, regardless of how good they are at the age of 10, will not make it to collegiate or pro levels? I'm not just talking out of my ass here. Like, according to the NCAA, your best shots at playing at the collegiate level are in ice hockey for both men and women, lacrosse for both men and women, and field hockey, women only. I'm not a promoter of the whole things were so much better when I was a kid shtick, but when it comes to the amount of pressure applied in youth sports these days and the reduced acceptance of and availability for participation of average players, yeah, like, I think it was so much better when I was a kid applies here. Youth sports used to be fun. Kids ran around, they learned to work as a team, they scraped their knees, got a little banged up, and then went home for lunch. Now, according to a 2024 report by the American Academy of Pediatrics, 70% of kids quit organized sports by age 13. Nearly 1 in 10 youth athletes report burnout. Burnout in children. It's ridiculous. And when the researchers surveyed the students who had quit a sport, 45% of them said it was because the sport had become too competitive and was no longer fun. The kids aren't the problem here. The culture around youth sports is the problem. According to the Aspen Institute, American families spend an estimated $30 to $40 billion annually on youth sports. Billion. The average sports family has spent 46% more in the past 5 years compared to pre-COVID levels. And these spending increases are mainly related to travel teams, private coaching, tournaments, and gear. The cost to participate in many youth sports now runs between $3,000 and $10,000 a year per child. That is insane when you think about the sacrifice involved for so many of these families, as well as the fact that these costs completely exclude a good amount of families from participating in the sports as well. And for what? A shot at a college scholarship that statistically very few will ever receive? We're burning kids out. We are literally injuring them, stressing them out, and pricing lower income families out of participation entirely to chase an outcome that for most is never going to happen. Playing a sport because you love it used to be the whole point, and I'd argue that it still should be. So, similarly, but different, like, you are allowed to just have a hobby and not a side hustle. Like, it's not just kids who suffer from this culture of needing to be the best. Adults get caught in the same trap, but mainly relating to hobbies, not sports. Like you pick up knitting or watercolor painting or baking sourdough bread, and it turns out that, like, hey, you're not terrible at it. You actually enjoy it. Then maybe from social media, maybe from a well meaning friend, maybe from like your own thoughts, comes like this suffocating idea of you should sell this. According to one survey, 61% of Gen Z report feeling societal pressure to monetize their hobbies. 61% monetize a hobby. Nearly 44% of Gen Z side hustlers report burnout or exhaustion. This problem is not just a younger generation thing. Etsy went from 1.3 million sellers in 2014 to 8.1 million sellers in 2024. That is a lot of storefronts that formed out of what was initially a hobby. And like, to be clear, building a business from something you love is not inherently bad. Being able to build a business from something you love is wonderful. That being said, there is a meaningful difference between choosing to turn a passion into a business and feeling like you're wasting your potential if you don't. When you turn a hobby into a job, you introduce performance pressure, revenue expectations, customer feedback, and the weight of metrics into something that used to exist purely for your own joy. A 2025 scoping review on hobbies and mental health defined hobbies specifically as activities done for pleasure without professional or financial gain. This review found that those activities, the hobbies, reduced stress, provided meaningful like mental relief, and contributed substantially to your quality of life. The without financial gain part is what really matters in these findings, because the moment you add income expectations to a leisure activity, it's no longer a hobby and you change your entire relationship with it. In 2023, there was an American Psychiatric Association poll that found that 71% of people reported very good or excellent mental health. And those people engaged in creative activities more frequently than those with poorer mental health outcomes. Research also found that roughly 75% of those study participants saw measurable drops in cortisol after making art. Not after monetizing their art, just by making it, by letting it be a hobby. It doesn't mean you have to be the best. And unfortunately, the average is unacceptable mindset doesn't just stay in our personal lives or our youth sports. It follows us into the workplace, and nowhere is it more obvious than in how companies write job descriptions. How many times are you scrolling through a job board and see that any old company is looking for a rockstar account manager, a ninja developer, or a unicorn marketing manager who can set strategy, execute plans, manage a budget, analyze data, grow the business, and somehow also be a great culture fit? Oh, and don't forget that entry level is preferred because they don't really want to pay you that much for it. Sadly, the use of these terms, ninja, rockstar, unicorn, isn't just a trend. And the use of these words has consequences, as everything does. According to a 2025 report from Indeed, 30% of job seekers say that unrealistic role requirements are the greatest challenge they face when trying to find a quality job. Unrealistic job descriptions shouldn't only be frustrating to candidates. They should be frustrating the hiring managers and organizations too. Unrealistic job descriptions actively shrink the talent pool for any posted job description. Highly capable people who could do the job well will self-select out of applying for a job because they don't meet 14 of the 17 required qualifications. Meanwhile, the role sits open for months, and as a result, the understaffed team stays stretched thin and leadership sits around wondering why hiring is so hard. Why is hiring so hard? Because you're looking for a fictional creature. You're looking for a unicorn. You need to be looking for a person. Here's what happens in these situations. A company loses an exceptional employee who had grown and been promoted into multiple different roles over a few years. Rather than backfill that one role, the company tries to write a job description that replicates everything that person did all at once on day one for roughly the same salary. By doing this, the company is A, not allowing for the growth that the previous person experienced, and B, not paying for their requirements properly. From a coaching and consulting standpoint, I see this more than I like to admit. Organizations want to solve multiple problems with a single hire. And when no one candidate can live up to that, they assume that the talent isn't out there. When in reality, the talent is out there, but the job description is just screwing up the works. A 2025 survey done by iHire found that nearly 40% of job seekers anticipate that employers' unrealistic requirements will impact their job search in the coming year. That is an employer problem. That's not a candidate problem. Strong teams aren't built through the accumulation of unicorns and rock stars. They're built through the hiring of people who are genuinely good at what you actually need, setting them up for success and letting them grow. A competent, reliable, hardworking person who shows up, does the work, and does it well is worth a hell of a lot more than a unicorn who burns out in 8 months because your job description was designed to burn people out. Seriously, cut the shit. Hire who you need to fill the role. Stop looking for the unicorn or the rock star. Hire the person. And after all that, here's the point. Being average at something, or even being bad at it, honestly, and enjoying it is a completely valid way to exist. You don't have to perform or create at elite levels to deserve to participate. You don't have to monetize what makes you happy to justify the time you spend on it. You don't have to turn rest into productivity. From a coaching perspective, some of the most high-performing and genuinely fulfilled people I've worked with share something in common. There is something in their life that exists just for them. That something could be a scheduled daily workout, like working in a vegetable garden, a weekly game night with friends, knitting, painting, photography, whatever. These things aren't guilty pleasures. They're hobbies. And hobbies are part of what makes people sustainable over the long haul. The obsession with excellence and optimization has a cost. We see it in the kids who quit a sport they once loved. We see it in the adults who used to paint and now they can't pick up a brush without wondering if it's actually worth their time. We see it in the job postings that sit open for months because no one can possibly meet the absurdly high bar that's been set. We see it in the burnout data, chronic stress reports, and productivity anxiety that runs at near crisis levels especially among the younger generations. Just if you take anything from this, please remember that being average is not a failure. For most things and for most people, it's exactly where you're supposed to be. That's why it's the average. So listen, find something you love and allow yourself to be mediocre at it if that's where your skill set puts you. Let this thing that you love just be yours. Hire the perfectly capable person in front of you and invest in helping them grow. Stop waiting for magic and start saving your sanity.